I welcome you all to the Inspired Wellness Network, and I appreciate you all being here in this time and in this way. As most of you know, my name is Lana Paul, and I am the owner of the Colorado Springs chapter of Inspired Wellness. And we are a group of like-minded individuals who value health and wellness and have made a commitment to thrive in health. We want to improve our well-being, and we value relationships with others looking to do the same. Aside from Inspired Wellness, I am a resilience coach. I help people move through transitions to let go of the pieces that hold them back, to create space within us to be able to handle the next thing. Because there's always that next thing, right? We can sure count on change in life, if nothing else. We have all felt that change of social distancing, and now we're moving into the phase called stay at home, I guess. So the clients who have come to me recently are those who are ready to be successful, however that looks to them. Meaning, as soon as they are allowed to get back out in the world and get back to work and some of their relationships, they don't want to be held back by the things that have come up during the quarantine. So there's two tips that I can provide you here. And that one is to continue to move your body or to start moving your body. And the other is to write out your thoughts and feelings so they aren't weighing you down in a constant loop. So those are my two little tidbits for you today. And again, I just want to welcome you all. Just so that you're aware, right now in the meeting, this is a place where we would normally have sponsors speak. So we do accept sponsorships for the meetings. And if you would like more information, please message me. We give sponsors 2 minutes at this time to talk to the group about their businesses and what they're offering. And so because this is not necessarily this is not a business networking group, but we do allow the sponsors to promote themselves. So now it's time. I'm really excited to introduce Bonnie Simon to you all. She is the reason I think we're all here today. She is a buying expert and believes buying local foods is easier than we think. Bonnie is an auto broker and an urban homesteader. During the workday, she helps people make good financial decisions about buying cars, all the while hiding her secret identity as an amateur chicken farmer. Bonnie wrote the Hungry Chicken Homestead blog about local food, farms, and business for many years. She has a couple of guest speakers today, and this is something that I admire about Bonnie. I do believe she is an expert and feels she could carry this meeting all on her own, with her own knowledge, but she chose to bring in Doug Wiley with Larga Vista Ranch and Katie Miller with SoCo Virtual Farmers Market. And as a result, we have a vibrant presentation ahead of us. Please welcome my friend, Bonnie Simon.
I have to unmute myself. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so we got to do this screen sharing thing now, right?
Yes, go for it.
All right, let's see. Screen sharing. Here's the chicken. Share. And then I think, is it already running? I think it's already running the slide.
It is on.
I don't know how that happened. All right, let me start my timer, and here we go. So first I want to say thank you to Lana for inviting me to speak with you. And I always like to put in a plug for Lana because I did her program, and I'm usually a big skeptic about these sorts of things, but it actually did make my life better. So if you're ever thinking that, gosh, it would be really nice to learn not to hold grudges, if you're like me, then Lana is a great person to talk to about how to do that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to talk about some things, starting with, mostly we're going to talk about me to start with. And I know that sounds egotistical, and maybe it is, but that's just how it's going to go. But then after that, we'll get the real information out of this presentation, which is Katie Miller, who is the organizer of the SoCo Virtual Farmers Market, and Doug Wiley, who's one of the farmers at Lago Vista Ranch. And these people are a wealth of information about farming, and you'll find out why I know them and why I ask them to join us as I'm talking through this slideshow. But I just want to say to them that I really appreciate that you were able to make some time because farmers are so busy. They really are very busy people and very energetic people, and I'll get to that too, but I just really appreciate that they were able to make it. Okay, so what we're looking at here, how to buy local when grocery shelves are bare, are a couple of my chickens in the front yard. We came up with this topic because, for example, my mother was saying to me things like, well, when I order groceries, they'll only let me get 2 packages of ground meat. And I would say, don't you have any local ranchers? And she would say, I don't know. And I thought, well, maybe other people don't know too, but it is possible to get food. Okay, slide 1. Who is this crazy chicken lady? That's me. So as Lana pointed out, by day I'm an auto broker, but I wrote a blog about local food farms and businesses called Hungry Chicken Homestead. And that's how I know about the local farming and ranching community, that you're able to get a lot of food here in Colorado Springs. We're very lucky. I had moved here and I was interested in food, and because sometimes I really am a crazy chicken lady, I quit a good job in the middle of a recession and decided that what I wanted to do instead was to sort of try to be the translator between the farms and the city. So I went around and I interviewed farmers, I interviewed a lot of small business people about what they were doing, and I would write about it on this blog. And unfortunately, I don't have time to do the blog anymore, but I still do have a lot of this information. So I also have, I'm also an urban homesteader. So I've got this crazy garden in the backyard. I'm not a very good gardener. Don't ask me gardening questions. There are 6 lunatic chickens in the backyard, and there's some baby chicks sitting next to me. Over the last 11 years, I've done a pretty good job of trying to either grow food or facilitate food, which is how I think of the chickens, or to get food locally, which is why I am qualified to, why I think I'm qualified to be giving this talk. All right, let's see what happens when I click this button. Okay, so during this, I wanted to do a poll. Maybe we'll just raise hands, but how many people have had trouble finding something, whether it's toilet paper or meat or milk during this coronavirus crazy thing? So I can't see everyone, but some people. So I have at all times been able to have the ingredients. I like to say I've had the ingredients for chicken paprikash at all times. So the way I've never run out of meat, I have not run out of vegetables, and I've certainly never run out of milk. And the reason for that is because I have built relationships with local farmers and made a habit of buying from them. So I always knew where to get meat, even if it wasn't available in the grocery stores. I had a farm share with a local farm for vegetables. And a farm share is where you pay in advance for a whole season, and then you get a box of whatever's ripe during whatever the season, whatever your agreement is. It might be once a week, it might be once a month, I don't know. And then with milk, I'm a shareholder with Doug's Ranch, so I get 4 gallons of milk a month from them, and even when I don't use it all up, I just freeze it, so I have plenty of milk at all times. The way that I did this was by building these relationships, and what I want to stress here is that when you go to the grocery store, you are in many ways just going, and it's transactional. You go, you pick up your lettuce and your gallon of milk, and you take it to the cashier, and you give them money, and they let you take the food. That's basically what happens. It's a little bit different when you're dealing with local businesses. So with local businesses, you're building more of a relationship with them. You have to know where they are, for one thing. And it's helpful to know where they are and to actually speak with them and become friends with them, because sometimes they'll tell you where the other food is. It's also, their businesses wax and wane, and the availability of the food waxes and wanes. But because you've built that relationship, it's good to try to provide support in when there's plenty of milk. I'm still a shareholder for the raw milk dairy, and it's not because I'm a raw milk advocate. I mean, I know many people are, and I have nothing against raw milk, but that's not the reason why. The reason is because it's good milk and it's really local, and I have this relationship with the farm. So that's one of the ways, one of the things that's made this work for me is being willing to build relationships with people who run the little shops, build relationships with the farmers. It's really just the business of making friends. It's, you know, what your mom tried to teach you about how to be a good neighbor. So another thing that's helpful is that I am always, always, always looking for new sources of local food. So some places like Katie's farm and Doug's farm, they've stayed in business for a long time. But some places kind of come in and out. Some of the CSAs start and then stop. And so it's helpful to always be looking, just always keeping in mind that if I see something new, like the SoCo Virtual Farmers Market, I'm going to grab that. I'm like, I got to know what that is, because that might be something that can add to my toolbox of ways to get food during, you know, just ways to get food as a general thing, but also now we know ways to get food when there's shortages of food, and ways to get better quality food. I should stress that as well, that most of the places that, all of the places I'm going to talk about today are, the food you're getting is much better quality. It might be more expensive, but that's because it's not being produced for the sake of making it as cheap as possible, which means making it low quality. It's being produced for the best quality, which sometimes makes it a little bit more expensive, but it is totally worth it. I wish you could taste some of the things that are in my kitchen. That, for example, the milk from Doug's Ranch, I always say it tastes like ice cream. You could actually make ice cream out of it with very little sugar, and it would be amazing. So always looking. The third one is just something I like to mention, because people don't always realize when, like if you're dealing with something with transactional food, the transactional food system, and you go to the grocery store and you pay with a credit card, and then you don't pay the credit card, you still get the food, and it doesn't necessarily hurt Kroger, because Kroger is enormous. So people don't necessarily think about these things, but when you're dealing with small businesses, small local ranches, small businesses, small producers, it's very important to pay on time. If you've agreed to pay for something by a certain time, or if the food comes with the invoice, just pay it and put it in the mailbox, because they are not set up to carry those debts. That the money goes back into the farm, it goes back into the shop. And one way to help keep them open is to just make sure that you're doing your part of the deal. And I mean, that doesn't mean that, if you order a CSA share and it's $1,000, you can't call and try to discuss when, how you're going to make the payments. You can do that. But if you agree to make payment, it's important to make the payment and to communicate well with those entities. Every time something pops up here, I get distracted because I can't make a joke and hear you laugh. It kind of makes me crazy. Okay, so you could start right now. I started this 10 years ago, and this has gone really well. If I need to make yogurt, I just make it out of the milk. If I need to, if I need beef, I know where to get it. Or there's 10 pounds of ground beef in my freezer that I haven't eaten, but because I've been storing it. I started a long time ago, but you can start right now. And the way to do that is to look at these three things. To look for small shops, places like the Sourdough Boulangerie on the other side of town. And from me, there's on the east side. I guess we're not all in one place. But they, for example, they're a good local bakery that they know a lot about baking. Right now, if you need flour or if you don't have eggs, you can get it from them. And there are other shops like that around town and Katie will talk more about those little shops, I think, because a lot of them are part of the virtual farmers market. But those are good people to have relationships with, and you're going to get really good food for them. And this was something I wanted to say about small shops, especially when they're new. They don't always know, you might think the food is expensive, but actually they often don't even know how much it's worth. So those are good times to support them. You get this high quality food while they're trying to figure out what it's worth, and you help keep them in business while they're trying to advertise themselves. So that's a little trick that I've used over the years to just get some amazing quality food and delicious, delicious things. Sometimes for less than they're going to be later on, for less cost. Another option is farm shares. Those are available. That's, like I said, you pay in advance for a season, and then you get food on the agreed time schedule. Those can be a good way. I've spent at times $1,000 on a farm share, but I always end up with more food than, it always ends up being worth more than that. Certainly to me, there have been times with the farm shares where there's been some sort of some sort of disaster like the bomb cyclone, and it's a little bit bumpy for a while. That's part of the deal. That's part of what you should expect, that if there's some sort of agricultural disaster, that you're going to get swept up in that. But what I've learned is that the farmers try to make it as right as possible, and it's always worth joining the share, because most of the time you're getting really high quality, organic, locally produced food that's been grown for flavor as opposed to grown for shipping, so it tastes better. Finally, the local ranches. There are a number of local ranches around here. You can get meat from Larga Vista Ranch. You can also get it from Corner Post Ranch on the north side. There's other ranches around. Mealy Farms, I think, has different kinds of meat, and so this was something important, that when the grocery stores didn't have meat, this is a way to get it, and it's a good time to start building relationships with people who have it, because there's no time like the present. Okay, so here are just some resources. You can look up the Colorado Farm Fresh directory, and they have a listing of, it'll tell you where all the farmers markets are. It'll tell you where some of the farms are and where some of the shops that are using local produce are. It's something put together by the Colorado government. So you can just look that up. Mountain Freshies is another favorite of mine. It's a little cooperative up in the mountains. So if you want fruit, you can get a CSA from them. You can get fruit shares, but you can also get, in the wintertime, they send you, not just the wintertime, in the summertime too, they send lists of what food is available. And so if you do canning or fermenting, you want to make pickles, like you need a bushel of small cucumbers, that's a good place to get it. And you just get on their list and they just send it to you periodically. Localharvest.org, I believe, is an independent company, but they have listings of farms around the country, and that can be helpful when you're trying to locate farms that will sell to the public. The Colorado Market Maker also has lists of farms, and this is something that's put together also by the agriculture department in Colorado, and they have all different kinds of things. It's products that they're trying to promote. So you can type in lettuce, you can type in salsa, you can type in honey, whatever it is that you want. You can type it into their search engine, and it will point you to places where you can get them. And then we have the SoCo Virtual Farmers Market that I don't know very much about yet, but we will find out today, and Larga Vista Ranch, from which you can get milk and meat and vegetables in the summertime. But I will let their respective people talk about them. And that is, I got a minute and 30 seconds left, so I'm very proud of myself. I didn't talk too much. Thank you. Oh, Lana, was I supposed to introduce them, the next people?
Yes, if you want to go ahead. That was excellent. Let's just all clap for Bonnie. I mean, yeah, I am impressed.
Thank you. I appreciate that, because I was kind of nervous. No one said anything. There was no response from the audience. How am I supposed to know?
I know. It was funny when you said, I can't make a joke and hear you laugh. It's the most frustrating thing.
Yeah.
You just have to trust.
Right, I do. I just have to trust that I'm not boring you all to death.
That's right. You are not boring. Yes, please go ahead and introduce the next speaker, please.
Who is the next speaker?
Whoever you choose.
Whoever I choose.
Yes, whoever you choose.
Okay. Well, I think I'm going to go with Doug, if that's okay.
Okay.
Doug was going to talk to us about meat and milk, and I can't remember what else we said, so I'll just let him. Doug is the owner with his wife of the Larga Vista Ranch, and it's in Boone, Colorado?
Yes.
Yes, and it's been there for many generations, if I understand correctly.
Well, the boys are 5.
That's a lot of generations. Yeah, I went to visit one time, and Doug showed me it was a building that one of his, I was like, your great grandfather had built, but it was one of those buildings that you would pass by and see it, you would say, wow, that's been there a long time. And that it was really cool. So anyway, so they have a raw milk dairy, and they also sell beef. And in the summertime, you can get vegetables that are grown right there in Boone County, or in Boone, usually at the CFAM markets. So with that somewhat awkward, clumsy introduction, I will just stop talking and leave it to Doug.
Well, howdy. It's kind of interesting listening to people's stories about being locked up. We're still running and gunning out here trying to plant a crop. Larga Vista Ranch has been in our family for 104 years now. We still use the barn my great-grandfather built. Back then, that's where we put the mamas when they have new babies if a storm's blowing in. And we store feed in there and stuff. It's the one building I won't let fall down. Many of the others have fallen. But, currently, the farm has always been somewhat diverse. I grew up, it was strictly a dairy farm. Without telling the whole history of that, about 20 years ago, we got out of commercial dairy business and I started direct marketing, first vegetables, then meats, and finally when raw milk became legally available through the share program, we started our little raw milk dairy. I'm one of those raw milk fanatics. I've never been without it since I was weaned, but we can talk about that later. But really, we call ourselves grass farmers now. Back in the day, we did all the normal plowing and field prep, and as an organic farmer, we fought weeds. And when I learned about grazing through Alan Savory and the importance of covering the land, we began to practice rotational grazing and start covering the land with mixed. When I say grass, I'm talking about mixed pastures, clovers, alfalfa, forbs, even native weeds in a mix are good for the animals. So our first priority is we build soil. My responsibility is to turn over something that's in better shape than I received it. And so our first responsibility is to build soil. And in our climate here, this is really a desert. We can only really build soil with grass agriculture, keeping the land covered as much as possible. And in this brittle environment we have, you have to use animals to manage the grass. So our first choice, our main enterprise, is the milk cows. We grow the grass to protect the soil, and the cows harvest it, help fertilize. We have a chicken house. We got a small flock of 200 birds that follow the milk cows. They condition the soil, spread the manure, and help the whole system function better. We tend to renovate pastures. We use the pigs. We have a 80 to 100 pig operation. We farrow them in the fields and run them on the pastures. We use them to fertilize and renovate the pastures as we rotate our the way in this climate, we tend to go through these dry spells and we lose grass and have to reseed. And so the pigs play their part in helping to tear out old fields. Then we plant vegetables for a year or two. We'll rotate through some other grazing crops and then back into a permanent pasture. So I didn't set my timer, but by utilizing the animals that, allowing them to, as Joel Salatin would say, pigs showing their pigness and cows doing what they should do, eat grass instead of grain, we're able to improve the land. And the bottom line for us and for our shareholders and clients is it's the highest nutrition that we can produce. the grass, you've all probably heard now the importance of grass-fed meats, eggs, milk, the high vitamin content of grass, the lack of grain-fed ruminant animals tends to increase the vitamins in the foods. And what a lot of farmers don't realize is that biology that we help facilitate in the soils creates a lot more nutrient flow from the soil into the food. And so the way I like to put it, we do all this work with the animals and run all these animals on the field so that we can grow a lot sweeter watermelon, or the best tasting tomatoes you've ever had. So that's another part of our program. Is as much as I like grass, I don't eat it very much. So 1 year out of 6 or 7, we'll grow vegetables so that we can have our favorite foods to eat. And if any of you have ever had some of our sweet corn, you'd realize what I'm talking about. You can taste nutrition by the level of flavor and sweetness in the fruit. You know, that's the sugars are combined with the mineral content. That's why a lot of the food you get through the store are somewhat flavorless. So minerals in so many soils are washed out. I guess one of the things I should tell you is you can look on our website or contact us to sign up for shares. We have lots of milk. It's springtime, the milk's flowing. There is some cream as well. That's almost cheating to offer cream. Like Lena was showing some pictures. Those cows just got onto that deep green triticale, and that milk will taste like ice cream here in a couple of days. But we also have meat available. You don't have to be a shareholder. And we are part of a CSA, a group of farms, CSA, that you can sign up and get our vegetables through boxes. So it's kind of interesting when this whole mess hit. You know, our shareholders and clients were looking pretty smart because they prepaid. Their food was guaranteed to come every week. And I told them, unless there's a roadblock, I will be there. And it's gives them an excuse to get out of the house, come get some food. But it's kind of exposed the vulnerability of the corporate food system. You know, we always understood the vulnerability of those large hog houses and confinement systems. You get a virus inside, it runs rampant. But now you see what a virus does in a large packing plant. And you start shutting those down, and it doesn't take long for the store shelves to be empty. But maybe we'll realize the importance of keeping our local agriculture alive, because in Colorado, we're at risk of losing it if we lose our irrigation water. So come out and support local agriculture. I guess that's my bottom line.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
How do you get the cream? Like, there's always so much cream in my milk, especially in the summer.
Well, here in the spring, when we have an excess of milk, we have a cream separator.
Oh, so
So
there's in the milk that you can separate some of the cream and use it for the cream.
yeah,
And yet I still get this creamy milk.
yeah, we only separate the excess, and the pigs and chickens get the skim milk. That's why the pork tastes so good.
So, and my understanding is that if people are interested in becoming shareholders, they should go and sign up for a tour.
Yes, yes. And today my website's temporarily down. It should be up by tomorrow, I'm hoping. But we're having a tour at the end of the month. We have them about every 2 weeks. But they're small tours. You know, we've got plenty of room to stand 6, 10, 15 feet apart, whatever it takes.
Yes,
And
and
it's worth it to come see the baby calves in person.
Mm.
they're very cute.
Thank you, Doug.
You're welcome.
That was amazing. I loved your pictures too. Yes.
All right, and so that brings us to Katie Miller. And Katie is with her husband, whose name I think is Josh, but I might be wrong about that. Anyway, they own a ranch, a dryland farming ranch in, if I remember right, it's in Calhan. I've been there, and it was really fascinating to go and visit and see how they raise pigs and cows on land that's very dry. They didn't irrigate. And but Katie is also very good at, she's very together, is how she always seemed to me. So she started this market called the SoCo Virtual Farmers Market, where you can go online and order food from a variety of different producers, and then you just go and pick it up on Saturday at I believe it's the Ranch Foods Direct on the east side. So that is everything I know about it. So I will turn it over to Katie from here.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Alrighty. Yeah, I'm Katie Bell Miller, and I own and operate Heritage Bell Farms along with my husband, Josh Miller. We are about half an hour east of Colorado Springs. We raise certified grass-fed, grass-finished Texas Longhorn cattle and beef. Also the certified grass-fed, grass-finished Navajo Churro lamb. We got out of raising pigs last year, but at the time we were raising all heritage breeds, and I've since decided that I don't have to be that old McDonald farmer doing it all. And so I decided I'd rather support people like Doug and buy pasture raised pork from him, so that I can concentrate on animals that really do better in our ecosystem. Like Bonnie said, we have an incredibly dry area. We're technically semi-desert, we're high plains, so we're actually higher elevation than Colorado Springs, so our growing season is shorter, and it just makes better use and sense to use our animals like Doug was describing, doing the rotation of grazing and implementing holistic management. I have pretty much gotten my livestock and farm tours down to a T, which has allowed me a little bit of space that I saw a need for in this community. And 2 weeks ago today, I launched SoCo for Southern Colorado Virtual Farmers Market. And we have just skyrocketed. Like, the amount of interest and attention that this is getting has just been phenomenal. We have, I think, close to 4,000 members on the Facebook page. And like I said, it's only been 2 weeks. We have done 2 pickups so far. And we are up to, I think, 700 or 800 people that have actually created a shopping profile on the site. So the way it works is we have 40 plus, nearing 50 vendors right now, from all different genres of food, and a little bit of body products. We have beef, pork, farmers that will be bringing chicken in season, eggs, mushrooms, microgreens, veggies. We'll be getting fruit through some of the Western Slope farmers, breads, different bakeries, desserts, teas, herbs. Then we also have some body products where people make goat's milk soap, or things that have ingredients that are sourced locally, or are all natural or organic. And so I've really kind of tried to limit the vendors and the products to things that directly support Southern Colorado agriculture, and Southern Colorado food production. So you're not at this point going to see any artisans or jewelry, definitely no MLM sales of any kind. This is kind of what I reminisce about when I was a child in Colorado Springs, going to that good old-fashioned farmers market, and having that experience. And with COVID-19 now, there's some, unknowns of whether or not that can be possible. And so I decided to help the farmers and ranchers out by launching an e-commerce platform online where vendors load all their products to it, and then the store is open for shopping from Monday at noon and closes down at Thursday at noon, which allows for all of my vendors to fulfill their orders, because a lot of them are harvesting and cleaning and packaging, or baking, or having to go to their freezer storage in town and pick up enough inventory to fill their orders. And so I wanted to not put a whole lot of pressure onto my vendors, and I definitely don't want them compromising their immune system and just pushing too hard. And so the great thing about this platform is the vendors control their quantity. They can't oversell themselves. They also control the prices. They control pictures. We use the Facebook group as a marketing platform to recruit new customers, to highlight products, vendors. We'll be featuring different vendors doing videos, and we have recipes and all different kinds of things that will be on the Facebook page. We're working to get our actual website launched this week or next week. But as for right now, we're functioning really well with just the e-commerce platform. Yeah, it's been phenomenal at how beneficial it's been to local vendors, a lot of whom were really struggling to find an outlet for their products, with restaurants being closed, with schools being closed. I think we've seen on the news how milk is getting dumped and produce is getting dumped. And fortunately, here in Colorado, we don't have a whole lot of big agriculture, and it's definitely not the season for produce and things of that nature. So we're not probably experiencing some of the downfalls of some other places in the country, but my hope was to kind of prevent that. And so a lot of these vendors are able to offer their wholesale prices that they would have offered to restaurants and schools to the customers directly, in an attempt to just move this product and not have to sit on it. Let's see. Pickup is on Saturdays, so vendors come a couple hours before and distribute all the orders into the appropriate bags for each customer's order. And then the customers are allowed to come noon through 1:30. We may have to extend that if we get more customers than we can handle in that hour and a half. But for right now, it's working pretty well. We've streamlined it, so you basically just stay in your vehicle. You pull up like you would like a bank teller line, and there's someone stationed out there with a walkie-talkie radio, and we get your order number and name, and we call it into the dock, and we have volunteers, which are all vendors themselves, helping out with finding the order, double checking that it's filled completely, and then running it out to your car. And we're taking all precautions. Everyone's wearing face masks. We're maintaining that 6-foot distance. And even if you need to, you can just pop your trunk and there can be no contact at all. And we'll just put your order in your trunk and close it for you, and you can be on your way. It's been working really well. We've had nothing but positive feedback, and we will be featured on Fox 21 News tonight, I believe. We were featured in the Gazette newspaper on Saturday, which has just brought a lot of publicity and a lot of curiosity. And that's kind of the fun part about the farmers market only being open Monday through Thursday. A lot of people have requested or asked why we don't just have it open 7 days a week. And the short answer is for my sanity, but the long answer is to give those vendors appropriate time to fulfill the orders and to regroup over the weekend and restock inventory and prepare for the week. And then the fun answer is that it's just kind of fun not knowing what's going to be available. I mean, we have certain products that are a standard now, but most of our vendors are still being added daily, and we have a lot that are starting to bring new products for different weeks. And so it is kind of fun. Like as if you were at an in-person or a physical market, going to see what kind of things you're going to find that day. And like Bonnie said, like a lot of things are probably more expensive than you're going to find in a supermarket, but the quality of those products is phenomenal. Like once you try it, you're not going to go back. And I think that's the reason why a lot of these farmers are farming, is because they wanted to know how their food was made or grown or raised, and they wanted to know what kind of quality went into that. And all of my vendors are family owned and operated, individual, all local within Colorado, and more specifically, most are definitely they're all Southern Colorado. And so by supporting SoCo Virtual Farmers Market, you are supporting these family businesses and these small businesses. And unlike conventional agriculture and food commodities, where farmers can expect maybe a 15% profit margin, they're actually, all these businesses are getting 90% back. So having my own farm in the platform, I selfishly don't want to share my profit. So I'm being the founder of this. I'm trying really, as hard as I can to keep the profit margin as large for the small business owners and the farmers and the ranchers as I can, because that's the only thing that's fair to me. Like they did all the work. And so I'm just making it easy and streamlined for everyone in the system. I don't want to create any extra work for farmers or ranchers or the value-added food producers. And I don't want to create any extra work for consumers either in this day and age where everyone's buying groceries online and Amazon. Like I knew that this system and this platform was going to work, and it definitely is, just because of the ease and the convenience of being able to shop at home and pick up. So I guess that's about it for that. I can take questions if anyone has any.
So I just want to make sure I understand. So you go, like, if I want to order, how do I do that?
Okay, so on our Facebook page is probably the easiest way to find the link to our e-commerce platform, our store, virtual store. Until we get our website up, is I don't know exactly what the link is because it's based off of our e-commerce platform, but it's a local line and then the store. And so what you do is once you get into that, you find that link, you just go to the store and you're able to actually view all the items that are available. And at some point, I'm not sure if I believe it's probably when you check out, you'll get prompted to either log in or to create a shopping profile. And then that is how you set up like your customer name. And we're asking everyone to please set up their name with a real first and last name and not some weird household name or something that you come up with. It makes it a lot easier to try and find the orders. And then, yeah, you scroll through. It's set up in different categories. So there's a meat category, there's an eggs, vegetables, grocery, personal hygiene, body. There's all different kinds of categories that you can narrow it down to. And you can also narrow it down to your favorite farm or ranch that's involved or small business. So you can search what they have specifically available for that week as well. And then you just check out. And the only difference between a virtual farmers market and a physical in-person farmers market is that you only have to make one payment. So instead of going to each vendor and paying them, you just make one final payment at the end. And then the platform handles all of the transactions between the vendors.
I like that. That makes it a lot easier. I mean, with the farmers markets,
yeah,
about like, well, what if you're only using a credit card, but you have to pay everyone with cash? And like, this is much simpler.
Yeah, and you were talking about how like the importance of paying your farmer when you've committed to a purchase, and this is a way that you commit to that purchase, and then you pick up your product. And there's no risk in it because what you see is what's available. And so it is kind of a first come, first serve, just like at a farmer's market too. Like you'll sometimes have popular booths that maybe, pasture raised eggs for sale. And there's always this big rush right in the beginning. And so typically like Mondays and Tuesdays are pretty popular days on the site for shoppers to be looking around.
That's good to know. So there are certainly
Yeah.
things in short supply. You better get there on Monday.
Yeah, and it's important to kind of keep the main mind frame that this is a farmer's market still. It's not an online grocery store, so it's not an unlimited amount of items available. So, you know, there's eggs are probably going to be in pretty high demand and short supply, and you know, we've got a cottage food business that makes phenomenal pies that they can only do so many pies a week for their sanity too, and so you really have to kind of get on there and know what you want to get. And it's helpful if you're a shopper from the previous week, because you can have some idea of what might be available. And then we also try and do a pretty good job of updating the Facebook and keeping pictures up of the products that are available too, so that you can, when the store is shut down, you can still kind of browse and see what kind of things we offer.
I am so impressed with you for putting this together. I mean, because this is something that people have talked about for years, but nobody really knew how to do it, or like, you know, could have. I'm just so impressed. But I see that I'm
Thank
asking
you.
questions. I don't know if does anyone else have questions for Doug or for Katie, that, or even for me, that we can answer?
I am just excited. If I'd have known this meeting was going to be this good, these are all of the questions I've been asking since I've been here in this area. I am beyond ecstatic. Thank you to each and every one of you for doing what you're doing, because finding good food and dairy products and things that are local, that's not easy. That's not easy to do. So I appreciate each and every one of you. And Katie, oh my gosh, that is a lot of work. And I'm looking at this site. Just thank you guys. Thank you.
I have a question for Katie, but I don't see her on here anymore. Is she still on?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, hi. It's Jennifer. So, we have in the past bought a side of, or a half a cow, side of beef, whatever, out at the El Paso County Fair a few times with our neighbors. Is that something that is available? I'm just thinking with summer coming and people grilling out more, if that would be something available on your site to order it in bulk that way, or is that not something that will be on there?
Yeah, it is. We currently have, let's see, 1, 2, 5 producers that have beef available, and they range from little tiny folks like me that only put out a few steers a year, to Sangres and Calicrate that produces, you know, a lot of beef. And so there's all different packages and individual cuts, and that's kind of the beauty of the virtual farmers market, is you can buy a pound of ground beef from Pure Foods Colorado, and then you can buy some steak packages from Heritage Bell Farms, and then you can buy half a cow from Sangre's Best or Calicrate.
Okay.
So yeah, we definitely have bulk available, all the way down to individual cuts as well. And we just keep continuing to add more farmers and ranchers. We're not limiting to it at all, because we cannot, as it is, we can't keep up with the demand. So the more farmers and ranchers that we can benefit, the better for the market.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Thank you.
I've got a question on the virtual farmers market. Are there going to be any other products like compost, biochar, any of those, or soil amendments that might become available over time, or is it strictly on the food side?
No, as long as there is some kind of connection to agriculture, then it's definitely welcome. So it takes no time at all to add vendors. We just basically have to have those who are offering that kind of product contact us and let us know what they have. And there is a possibility that this will get opened up into artisans and jewelry people and things of that nature. But I specifically started it just to benefit the farmers that I knew.
Makes sense.
All right, anyone have any more questions?
Yeah, as far as Doug, we've got a lot of emphasis on the virtual farmers market, but Doug, obviously he could supply a half a beef as well, or maybe a half a pig or what have you, but do you got to go down there to get it? Or is that delivered up here in the Springs?
We do a few beef, and we just sold out last week of sides. We'll have beef cuts available, but we do have a lot of hogs. We sell half of hogs, whole hogs, and cuts, and that's all comes with us to Springs. We come once a week all year long.
So is your hogs pretty lean, or?
No, I get them fat on purpose. It's the fat. They're in the sunshine, so the fat carries a lot of good vitamin D. They're not overly fat. We feed them some grain, but my pigs walk miles each day foraging in the field.
So what's your bacon and hams like?
Well, I'd put it this way: we feed them so the bacon's perfect.
That skim milk keeps them skinny, Tom.
That's actually a urban myth. Skim milk is why the farmers fatten their hogs with it, so that's what it's doing to the population. Whole milk, please.
Well, there's something for us to all remember.
Oh, that brings up another question for me. So the milk shares, those still aren't available on the virtual farmers market. Those are still, if you have to sign up for a share through that particular farm, your particular farm. Is that right, Doug?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause we deliver all that on Wednesday, so it's hard to spread that out.
So how's the milk delivered?
Well, we bottle in half-gallon ball jars and plastic half gallons. We bring it up on ice in our coolers. So if you see a trailer with 10 coolers on it, that's us.
Thank you, guys.
Yes. Yeah, thank you to Bonnie, to Katie, to Doug. I mean, I am so thankful and truly inspired. I'm ready to go out and buy locally. So, and it sounds like everyone else is just right on the same train. So thank you all.
This was
From the bottom
exciting to
of
learn how easy it could be, so thanks.
I know. I
Thank
agree.
you, Lana and Bonnie.
You're welcome.
Thanks for coming. I know it wasn't easy to figure out how to use the virtual platform. So I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, I got to get on a tractor now. There's a storm coming.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, Doug.
Bye.
All right. Bye, Doug. Okay, so we'll just close up here. And I just am thankful again that you guys were all here. I love that we were able to have some conversation. And sorry, I made my notes before and I thought I would have a lot of, over 30. So just in closing, I want to let you know that we have these meetings once a month and they're usually the second Tuesday of the month. So on May 12th at 10, we will have our next one. And we're planning to meet on Zoom. And we have an amazing speaker who's with us today, Chris Gieske. And Chris is the Director of Rehabilitative Exercise and Performance Training with Champion. And this presentation is Move Better, Feel Better, Perform Better. Everyone is an athlete. And I think that's pretty relevant right now. Many of us maybe want to move more or maybe move in ways we haven't. And each of us being an athlete sure sounds like a sign of strength, hope, and empowerment. So Chris is going to talk to us about why we stop moving well and how the nervous system protects us and how we can make it work for us. So I hope you all can join us in May. And you will each be added to the mailing list, and I will also put in an email contact information and links, so you'll have that. And so you'll have each other's email as well. And I encourage you to reach out if you're interested in getting to know someone that you've seen here, have coffee and build relationships, because connection cannot be emphasized enough. So thank you all for being here.